Stop building apps in Teams. You know it, I know it. Teams is becoming the SharePoint graveyard with better emojis. Custom ACs feel quick while quietly building a compliance landfill. Today I'll show you why SPFx adaptive card extensions rot fast and how to stop the mess. You'll get a ruthless checklist, a reference architecture that doesn't implode, and a decision tree so you can say no without being the villain. Then we'll fix it with SharePoint, Viva, and Power Platform, proper ALM, real governance, fewer 2AM incidents. The ACE trap. Why quick apps rot fast. You know that simple ACE request? A rotating announcement card pulling from a list. No backend, no database. Just JSON. That's the trap. It ships fast. It demos great. Then it ages like milk. Here's the pattern. Someone hard-codes ACE behavior to a SharePoint list because it's configurable. The schema and data live in list columns. It's flexible until the moment you need validation, versioning of card templates, or an audit trail. Then your schema is a rumor and your data is cosplay. The thing most people miss is governance is a workload, not a feature. ACEs don't give you lifecycle out of the box. Owners leave. Cards keep surfacing. You end up with orphaned solutions front and center in Viva Connections, powered by a list nobody owns, referencing a template nobody remembers. Can you hear me? That's the sound of your compliance officer opening a new ticket. Why this rots fast? App sprawl. ACEs are easy to deploy to the dashboard, so people do a lot. One per department, one per campaign. Then they multiply like shared Excel files. Your dashboard turns into a flea market. Orphaned owners. Teams changes. Contractors roll off. The original app catalog approver leaves. No ownership register, no lifecycle policy, no succession plan. The AC doesn't die, it haunts. Data silos. Each ACE points at its own list, its own schema, its own Power Automate. Suddenly, the organization has 5 announcement systems, and none agree on what today means. Compliance gaps. Content shows up in Teams Mobile without sensitivity labels, retention logic or DLP context because the JSON payload isn't tied to data classification. Broadcast meets breach risk. Broken lifecycle, no archiving triggers, no sunset rules, no environment boundaries. Production becomes a museum of once urgent cards. Now, why does the quick approach fail even when it works? Because it assumes the surface area is tiny. But ACEs live in Teams and Viva, which means mobile endpoints, offline caches, and users forwarding screenshots. You wanted just a card. You accidentally built a distribution channel. This clicked for me when a client's one ACE to rule announcements morphed into 6 variants, each with a slightly different schema jammed into a multi-line text column. One Power Automate tried to keep them fresh. It broke every time someone pasted JSON with smart quotes. Fast forward, marketing complains that Tuesday's card shows last quarter's pricing. IT gets pulled in. Governance shows up late to the party and has to retrofit labels, ownership, and change control. That quick win just became a slow bleed. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Treat an ACE like a UI skin, not an application. If the data matters, govern the system of record, not the card. If the process matters, push it into a platform with environments, ALM, and policy enforcement. The card should be the final mile, not the whole highway. Let me show you exactly how this spirals. A developer deploys the ACE tenant-wide from the app catalog. No scoped rollout plan, no owner of owners. Success! Site owners copy the list for flexibility. Now you've got 3 sources of truth and a scavenger hunt. Someone asks for submit in the quick view. Sorry, ACE quick views are great for read, writes mean APIs, a youth, CSRF, and support you did not budget. Legal asks for retention. You discover the card payload isn't labeled and the list has no retention policy tied to content type. Oops, security requests an access review. You can't find the owner because there isn't one. Now here's where most people mess up. They try to fix it with more ACEs. A governance notice ACE, a tips ACE, a catalog of ACEs ACE. It's like installing more printers to fix a jam. If you remember nothing else, an ACE is a distribution layer. Govern the source, the deployment, and the lifecycle outside the card. The reason this works is you move risk to places with controls. SharePoint with classification, Viva for curated experiences, Power Platform for ALM and environments. Then keep the card dead, simple, and disposable. Quick win you can do today. Inventory every ace in your tenant, map each to its data source, owner, and retention label. If any are missing two of those three, freeze new ace deployments until you fix ownership and policy. It's boring. It saves weekends. The 5 governance failures you'll see every time. Let's name the 5 ghosts that always show up. App sprawl, orphaned owners, data silos, compliance gaps, and broken lifecycle. You've met them, you tried to ignore them, they ate your roadmap. App sprawl first. ACs are tiny, like gremlins. And like gremlins, if you feed them after the demo, they multiply. Every department wants their card. HR wants announcements. Facilities wants outages. Marketing wants campaigns. Finance wants quarter close reminders. None of that is evil. The mess happens when each card brings its own list, its own JSON schema, and its own Power Automate babysitter. Suddenly, your Viva Connections dashboard looks like a yard sale. There's no portfolio view, no capacity planning, no rollout schedule, just tiles and hope. The fix is boring and effective. Central intake, catalog every ace, require a data source registration, and a business owner. Publish a dashboard placement calendar like you would a homepage hero slot, and cap the number of concurrent cards. Scarcity forces prioritization. Prioritization kills sprawl. Now orphaned owners. Corporate musical chairs means someone's leaving every quarter. Meanwhile, your aces cling to life like ancient workflow emails. The person who uploaded the package? Gone. The SharePoint list owner? Left the org. The dashboard admin? Transferred. Ownership drift is how simple UI turns into operational risk. You don't need heroics. You need an owner of owners. Create a solution record per ace in your catalog with business owner, technical owner, platform steward. Require 2 owners minimum. Back it with a quarterly access review. If an owner loses mailbox access or leaves the Entra ID tenant, the app's active status auto flips to degraded, and placement is yanked until a successor is assigned. It's not punishment, it's uptime protection. Data silos next. When each ace hardcodes its own configurable schema, you aren't flexible, you're fragmented. The restaurant menu card uses items, the news card uses entries, the event card uses sessions, and none of them agree on date formats. Then someone asks for analytics. You can't roll anything up because your schema is performance art. The way out is a reference data contract. Define canonical content types for announcement, event, alert. Store the content in a governed site or a Dataverse table. The ACE only reads from those bounded sources. New card idea? It maps to a known contract or it doesn't ship. And yes, add schema versioning. A single template version field saves you from the smart quotes apocalypse. Compliance gaps. ACEs look harmless because they just show JSON. That's like saying a megaphone just amplifies air. If the underlying content lacks sensitivity labels, retention, or DLP, you've built a broadcast channel for unlabeled data. Mobile notifications make it worse. People screenshot everything. Mitigation is policy, not vibes. Tie ACE placement to data classification. No label, no surface. Use Microsoft Purview retention labels on the source list or Dataverse table. Block tenant-wide deployment until the package passes a deployment checklist. Data location documented, label required, retention policy linked, external sharing scoped. If the content is external API data, document the processor, data flow, and cache rules. We pull it live is not a compliance plan. Broken lifecycle. This is the graveyard part. Without lifecycle, content never dies, it just lingers. That critical outage card from 2 winters ago still rotates in the queue because nobody set an end date. The list used start and end, but the Power Automate failed on daylight savings and nobody noticed. Solve it with 3 rails: content lifecycle, app lifecycle, and placement lifecycle. Content lifecycle. Start and end date required. Retention label applied, and a nightly job archives expired items to a read-only library. App lifecycle. Every ACE has a sunset date by default, reviewed at QBR, renewed, or removed. Placement lifecycle. Dashboard slots expire. Owners must reassert, or the slot freeze for other content. Automation enforces all 3. Manual enforcement is how you get museums. Now how these 5 stack into one disaster. Sprawl means 10 cards compete for attention. Orphaned ownership means nobody answers the pager. Silos mean you can't fix one without breaking 3. Compliance gaps mean leadership gets a screenshot of unlabeled HR data on a phone. And broken lifecycle means it keeps happening because nothing ever exits. Then your exec asks, why is Teams full of stale stuff? And you, with a straight face, say, because we built 5 apps instead of one platform. The thing most people miss is the unit of governance. You're governing the distribution layer while letting the systems of record run feral. Flip it. Standardize the data layer, centralize ownership, restrict surfaces, and automate lifecycle. The ACE becomes a view on a governed pipeline, not a bespoke snowflake demanding constant care. Quick checks you can run tomorrow. Count ACEs per dashboard. If it's over 5, you're in sprawl. Pull an ownership export. If fewer than 2 owners per ACE, you're in drift. Sample 3 ACE schemas. If they don't share an ID, a timestamp, and a label, you're in silo land. Scan for labels. If cards display unlabeled content, pause deployments. Review expiration. If half your content has no end date, turn off auto-rotate until lifecycle is enforced. Fix these 5, and the rest actually gets easier. Ignore them, and congrats. You've rebuilt SharePoint 2013, but this time it's in everyone's pocket. The reference architecture that doesn't rot. Here's the fix. Treat the ACE like a thin shell over governed platforms. UI skin on top. Zero business logic in the card. All risk and rules live beneath it. Layer 1. Identity and environments. Start with Entra ID groups that mirror responsibility. Business owner, tech owner, platform stewards. Then split environments. Dev, test, prod. If you're using Dataverse, great. If not, use 3 SharePoint sites. Content dev, content test, content prod. Provision with site designs that auto-apply sensitivity labels, default retention, versioning, and blocked external sharing. No personal ownership, all lists and tables owned by groups. Layer 2. Contracts, not vibes. Define canonical content contracts. Announcement, alert, event. Each has an ID, title, summary, body, start, end, label, template version, source system, and last modified by. Put them in Dataverse tables if you can. Otherwise, SharePoint with content types that enforce required fields. Add JSON schema versions for anything the ACE renders. Your card maps to contract V1 or V2. It doesn't invent V1.5 on a Tuesday. Layer 3. Data pipelines. Content flows into the contract tables through controlled ingestion. Use Power Automate or Azure Functions. Each flow writes to dev first, validates schema, stamps the label, and promotes to test and prod through solution exports if Dataverse, or controlled flow connections if SharePoint. No direct writes from the card. No, we'll just let comms paste JSON. Ingestion logs every change. Rollbacks are possible because versions are real. Layer 4. Policy guardrails. Microsoft Purview enforces sensitivity and retention on the data layer, not the card. DLP rules block exfiltration from those sites and tables. If an item lacks a label, it can't reach prod. If a label conflicts with the surface, the card refuses to bind. The ACE checks the label and template version before rendering. If they don't match allowed combinations, it displays a safe fallback or nothing. Layer 5. Deployment control. The SPFx package lives in a repo with branch policies, automated builds, and tenant scope deployment disabled by default. You publish to the tenant app catalog through CI, but you scope availability to specific dashboards via a placement registry. Think of it as an allo list, site ID, slot name, dates, and the contract it's allowed to read. No placement record, no card. That registry lives with change control. Layer 6. Observability. Telemetry is not optional. The ACE emits events, render success, contract mismatch, empty dataset, blocked by policy. Store that in application insights or log analytics. Dashboards show which placements are failing, which contracts are hot, and where labels are missing. Tie alerts to your platform steward group. If render errors spike, pull the placement until data passes validation. Layer 7, Lifecycle Automation. Content lifecycle, nightly job archives expired items to immutable storage and writes a summary card. State so users see this announcement ended. App lifecycle. Every placement has an end date. Owners reassert quarterly during access review or the placement deactivates. Solution lifecycle. SPFx major versions require reapproval. Minor versions can hot swap. Deprecated contracts display a banner and stop accepting new content after a grace window. What does the ACE actually do in this world? 3 things. 1. Query the contract endpoint for its placement. 2. Validate label and template version. 3. Render the template with the data. That's it. No rights, no business rules, no secret power automate dance. It's a reader with opinions. Where do SharePoint and Viva fit? SharePoint hosts the governed content sites with content types, labels, and retention. Viva Connections is the curated surface. The dashboard is not a playground. It's a broadcast surface with a schedule. You run a placement calendar the same way you'd manage a homepage hero. If a department wants a slot, they bring a contract and an owner. Where does Power Platform fit? Use Dataverse for canonical data and manage solutions for ALM. Flows handle ingestion, enrichment, and promotion. Power Apps handle authoring if you need friendly forms. Each is bound to environments with DLP policies, so connectors can't sneak data to the wrong place. What about external feeds? Wrap them in an Azure function that normalizes to your contract, stamps provenance in source system, and caches to governed storage. The AC never calls third-party APIs directly. The function owns secrets, retries, and rate limits. Purview policies still apply because the cache is yours. This architecture scales because each layer owns one problem. Data is governed, policy is enforced, UI is disposable. And when someone leaves, the group still owns it, the slot expires, and your dashboard doesn't turn into a museum. The decision tree. Block or allow that Teams app. Here's the decision tree I use so you don't end up approving a tiny card that grows teeth. Question 1. What's the data contract? If the app can't point to an existing governed contract, announcement, alert, event, or Dataverse table with required fields, labels, and versioning, it's a block. No contract, no card. If they say, it's just JSON translation, we have no schema discipline. Block and route them to the contract catalog. If there is a contract, question 2, where does the content live today? If the answer is a team site list will create, that's a provisional block. Content must live in a governed site or Dataverse with sensitivity labels and retention turned on. If they can migrate or point to the governed store, proceed. If not, block until the source is compliant. Question 3, who owns it? You need named business and technical owners plus a platform steward group. Single owner requests get a yellow card. If they can't produce 2 owners with mailboxes in your tenant, it's a block. No owner, no surface. Question 4. What's the right story? If the ACE needs to collect data in quick view, that's a stealth app. Reads only? Good. Writes? It needs API design, AUth, CSRF protection, and support. Either move the right path to a Power App or web app with proper ALM, or block until a real app is scoped. Question 5. What's the life cycle? If they can't give you start and end dates for content, a placement end date, and a review cadence, block. Will keep it fresh is not a life cycle. Require auto-expiry and quarterly renewal. Question 6. What's the deployment scope? If they ask for tenant-wide with no placement plan, block. Apps get scoped to define dashboards and slots via an allow list. No placement record, no deploy. Tenant-wide is earned after 2 stable releases, telemetry in place, and an incident-free quarter. Question 7. What's the compliance posture? The content sensitivity label must be compatible with Teams surfaces. If HR wants highly confidential in a public dashboard, that's a no. Purview DLP must cover the data source. External data? You need the data flow documented, the processor identified, and a cache under your control. If any of that is missing, block. Question 8. What's the rollback plan? If the app can't fail safe, I render nothing on invalid label or contract mismatch. and the team doesn't have a versioned package ready. Block. You're not deploying a trampoline without a net. Now the allow path, because sometimes the answer is yes. You allow when the app uses a standard contract, reads from governed storage, has 2 owners, is read-only, has lifecycle dates, is scoped by placement, passes label DLP checks, and has a rollback. Plus CI/CD to the app catalog, no manual zip uploads, and telemetry wired to your steward group. If all green, ship it to dev, then test, then a limited prod placement with a 30-day probation. Any render or policy violations over threshold auto-pause the placement. There's one more fork. Could this be a SharePoint hero slot, a Viva news card, or a Power App tab instead? If a native surface exists that meets the need, default to that. Custom ACs are for format specialization, not for replacing first-party features. If they insist, they must justify the delta, accessibility, performance, localization, analytics against native. Last check, portfolio impact. If the new app duplicates an existing contract or competes for a critical slot during a busy window, it waits. Scarcity is policy. Priority belongs to the highest impact governed content with owners who show up. You want less graveyard, not a bigger cemetery. The governance checklist you actually use. This isn't a 40-page policy. It's a clipboard you can run in 15 minutes and nobody argues with. Catalog and owners. Is the ACE in your solution catalog with a unique ID? Does it list 2 owners, business and technical? Are they current Entra mailboxes? If no to any pause placement, contract check. Does the AC bind to a standard contract, announcement, alert, event, with required fields, ID, title, summary, start, end, label, template version, source system? If they say custom JSON, route to contract onboarding, source of truth. Is the data stored in governed SharePoint or Dataverse with sensitivity labels and retention on? Not a random team site. If not, migrate or block. Read-only verification. Does the ACE only read? If it writes, where is the API, a youth, CSRF protection, and support plan? If missing, move rights to Power Apps or Web App. Placement scope. Is there a placement record with site ID, slot, dates, and contract version? No record, no render. Tenant-wide is not the default. It's an outcome. Life cycle. Content has start, end dates. Placement has an expiry. App has a sunset unless renewed at QBR. Nightly archive moves expired content to read-only storage. All 3 documented. Compliance. Purview label required and compatible with Teams. DLP policy applied to the data store. External data has processor, flow diagram, and governed cache. If any of that's guesswork, you're not compliant. Telemetry. Application insights wired. Events. Render success fail. Empty dataset. Contract mismatch. Blocked by policy. Alerts go to platform stewards. No telemetry, no production. CI/CD. Repo, branch policies, automated build. App catalog deploy via pipeline. No manual zip uploads from a laptop named Steve. Scope deployment by allow list. Accessibility and localization. Does the card meet contrast, keyboard nav, and localization strings? If this replaces a native card, justify the delta with measurable criteria. Rollback. Can the ACE fail safe to no content on label or contract mismatch? Is the prior version available? If not, you're one typo from a banner incident. Portfolio fit. Does it duplicate an existing contract or collide with a busy window? If yes, it waits. Scarcity is policy. Run this checklist at 3 points: intake, pre-prod, and quarterly review. If you fail 2 items at any stage, pause the placement. Owners fix it, or the slot goes back to the pool. And yes, track time to green. Slow teams don't get premium slots. The one rule that saves you. Treat the ACE as a skin. Everything else lives under governance. If you hold that line, 3 good things happen. First, risk moves to places with guardrails, labels, retention, DLP environments. Second, the card stays disposable, so failures degrade gracefully. Third, you can scale because you're adding views, not inventing new systems. You'll get pressure to bend it. We just need a tiny submit in quick view. That's a right path. Redirect to a Power App with ALM and policies. We'll paste JSON into a list. It's faster. That's schema drift. Redirect to the contract and ingestion flow. Can we go tenant-wide now? Not until telemetry proves stability and owners pass 2 reviews. Use this short test before every approval. Does the data exist in a governed store under a standard contract with labels and retention? And does the ACE only read and render? If yes, green. If no, it's not a card. It's a project. Route it to the platform with a real backlog. Hold this line, and the dashboard stays clean. Break it once and congrats. You're running a museum gift shop. If you remember nothing else, the ACE is just the skin. Govern the data, the owners, the placement, and the lifecycle underneath. Want the full kit? Grab my governance checklist, reference architecture diagram, and the block or allow decision tree in the next video. Subscribe so you can say no with receipts and ship fewer incidents.